so we'll make it funnier for some of the other white folks.
Thank you very much. My name is Michael James Brown, writer and producer of the Other Awareness Project. The state of California is going through the process of deciding whether classes in ethnic studies should be mandatory. If everything goes as planned, every school district in California with 7th through 12th grade classes must follow a state-mandated curriculum offering ethnic studies as a social science elective. In case you're not familiar, here's the complete story as reported by the Long Beach Report. In his first hearing as chair of the Assembly Education Committee, Assemblyman Patrick O'Donnell, Long Beach, the former 4th District councilman, whose campaign reminded voters that he is a teacher, has voted to support and advance a bill that would require all California school districts with grades 7 through 12 inclusive to offer a course in ethnic studies as a social science elective using a Sacramento-developed model curriculum. AB 101, authored by Assemblyman Louis Alejo, Democrat Watsonville, cleared O'Donnell's committee on a 6-to-1 vote with Republican Rocky Chavez, Republican of Oceanside, voting no, sending it to the Assembly Appropriations Committee and potentially one step away from the Democratic majority Assembly floor. Now, specifically, the bill would require the state superintendent of public instruction to oversee the development of and the state board to adopt a model curriculum, framework, and other support systems to ensure quality courses in ethnic studies. This bill would require the superintendent to establish an ethnic studies advisory committee and would require the committee to advise, assist, and make recommendations to the state board about programs, curriculum, content, and other issues related to ethnic studies. Furthermore, the bill would require the superintendent on or before June 30th, 2016 to submit to the state board a plan to fully implement these requirements. The bill would, beginning the school year following the adoption of the model curriculum, require each school district maintaining any of grades 7 through 12 inclusive to offer as an elective course in the social sciences a course of study in ethnic studies based on the model curriculum framework. On my site, you can find links where you can read the full text of AB 101 and the Assembly Education Committee's legislative analysis of the bill. Now, additionally, another story I want to tell you about, Professor Armando Vasquez Ramos, a professor in the Chicano and Latino Studies Department at California State University at Long Beach, made a similar suggestion urging LBUSD to start teaching ethnic studies in high school. Professor Vasquez Ramos wrote, "I firmly believe that young men of color will greatly benefit from a strong sense of identity and social responsibility, which will be derived from a profound knowledge about their history and culture." You can also find a link to the complete article about Professor Vasquez Ramos on my website as well. So, here are my thoughts regarding the proposals contained in AB 101 and the statement by Professor Vasquez Ramos. Now, I completely understand the thoughts and sentiments behind these proposals. From my experience, there is no question that high school education in the USA could be a lot better. There is also no question that adding more information would help young people to know about the cultures they think they come from. However, I question the effectiveness of these measures in either the short or long term. In fact, I think they're continuing to emphasize the wrong things. Primarily, the continuing direction of dialogue that young men of color need special help and commissions or programs so they can accomplish simple things in life. They can't do it without other people's help. The young men of color need other people's help in learning about themselves. I personally have a problem with the same government that was chiefly responsible for taking away rights and stripping people of their culture being in charge of teaching these same groups their history. If they teach everyone's history as they have annotated and truncated world and American history like they have up until this point, then we all can only be in more trouble. We still need warriors. What groups put others in charge of teaching their children how to be warriors? Now, sure, I know the popular marketing bandwagon these days is to rejoice about the fact that we are all Americans, we are all one. We have all made so much progress that we are at the dawn of a new age that has never existed before. But we all aren't here because of a lack of growth or because we needed one group to coach and counsel us all into being better human beings. Sure, people are made of the same stuff, but that doesn't mean everyone should end up in the same place doing the exact same things. In fact, for most of the people who might listen to this video, your ancestors weren't the ones to illogically break themselves and other people into arbitrary and illegally undefined categories. It wasn't your people who came up with all of these names for other people. In fact, most people all around the world don't have any problems with other people based on skin color, etc. Now, I will try and not get everyone riled up regarding my opinion of the way world and U.S. history has been taught to us over the last 600 or 700 years. But in my opinion, just about everything anyone in the USA has learned about any place or any other people on the planet has been distorted, or relevant information has been completely left out to make it seem that the U.S. is leading the world to places and ideas that have never been seen before. This oversight was not because information was not known or readily available. This lack of information was and continues to be a part of the strategies to keep the weak weak and make the strong stronger. Or, at the very least, keep everybody at the level they are artificially at now, while making it seem like we are all growing towards a level of enlightenment that never existed before. It is an all not so clever double talk. Its main purpose is to separate people from the resources in their lands for the benefit of other people. The trick is making everyone believe it is for the benefit of all, when actually only a very few benefit from this process. On the face of it, it seems a great idea for the professor at CUSLB and representatives of the state of California to be among the groups taking the lead in helping to educate all the kids, including the kids in the so-called minority groups. It is only when you take a closer look do you start to ask yourself a few why questions. Why does one group need to have other groups involved in the teaching of its young people? Why would the supposed suppressed groups even allow people from the long-term oppressive group to be involved in the process of educating their children? Again, if they have messed up the teaching of American history to the point that most people who haven't taken it upon themselves to learn more don't have a working understanding of the subject of American history, why would you want to let them teach your kids about who they are? What are they really going to learn? So now I'd like to take a few seconds to really focus specifically on this part of the article. And it says, specifically, the bill would require the state superintendent of public instruction to oversee the development of, and the state board to adopt, a model curriculum, framework, and other support systems to ensure quality courses in ethnic studies. The bill would require the superintendent to establish an ethnic studies advisory committee and would require the committee to advise and assist and make recommendations to the state board about programs, curriculum, content, and other issues related to ethnic studies. So let me get this straight. So the state appointed superintendent would be required to appoint state approved commissioners to build, then implement a state approved curriculum for teaching all ethnic kids who they are. Now, that seems a little odd to me and off balance when you consider it is the state that continues to allow, in the face of all logic, such arbitrary and completely legally undefined categories such as black, Latino, white, etc. on their state-approved forms. I recently started a new job. Some of you might have seen a paragraph like this on the paperwork that is required for most human resources department, and it states, any information relating to race, ethnicity, and gender is collected to comply with federal regulations, which require certain record keeping and reporting requirements of your company name here. The submission of this information is voluntary, and refusal to provide it will not subject you to any adverse treatment. However, if you elect not to provide your ethnicity, your enrollment administrator will make a selection on your behalf. So, therefore, you can refuse to not continue to participate in the rules set up by them, but it doesn't matter because one of the folks in HR will make a selection for you. A person whom you may have just met not more than a week or two ago is required to place you into one of the state-approved arbitrary race and ethnicity categories. You have to fit into one of their categories. You cannot opt out, or you can, but it doesn't matter. Reminds me of the lyrics, some of the lyrics in the song Hotel California. You know, you can check out, but you can never leave. My next question would be, exactly what is the state-approved Board of Commissioners going to teach these kids about themselves? It is one thing to know the information, and it is another to put the information into action. What is going to be the limit? Because most of these ethnic kids come from cultures that had fierce warriors. They had outstanding fighting traditions. They were not easily defeated, and they accomplished great things. However, over the years, everyone who was brave enough to stand up to the U.S. government as it was stretching across the country, stealing land and breaking treaties, was murdered, imprisoned, or forced to disband their armies by starving the women and children. Military and legislative forces did this. This was part of a plan. What information does the same government that put their people in the situation they are in have to tell them about who they are now, or tell them about themselves? We still need warriors. In addition, we still need people to teach these kids how to be warriors. One of the biggest problems I ever have with legislation like this are groups who always seem to think there needs to be one more program to help all of these poor, disenfranchised youths, is that this sort of stuff helps perpetuate the very idea that these people need help from outside sources to just be equal with other people. These people are so broken down that they just cannot possibly do it all by themselves. The whole process continues to perpetuate a slave mentality whereby grown men are conditioned to continually ask or even tell via protest and marching other men what they need to do in order to make them whole. So let me tell you a quick story, and I'll get to another point. After returning home from World War II, William Powell faced discrimination on the golf course. With the help of his wife and children, he carved 9 holes out of farmland while working nights as a security guard. In 1946, he established Clearview Golf Club in East Canton, Ohio. So now you can read, and you can and should do more research about Bill Powell and many others, but I like this story as an example for what it does not say. It does not say that Bill Powell sat around and waited for other people to finally decide if he could play golf or not. It does not say that Bill Powell went around asking other people for money so he could turn his dream into a reality. It does not say that Bill Powell waited for the state-approved people to come along and help him make sure he had the same chances at happiness as everyone else. Now, this was 1946. The PGA of America was around, but offered no hand in helping Bill Powell build his course. In fact, black players could not join the Professional Golfers Association of America. It wasn't until years later that Charlie Sifford would become the first official state-approved black player in 1961. Many years later, the PGA gave Bill Powell a Lifetime Achievement Award for his accomplishments and dedication to golf. My personal opinion is that it was given more to improve the perception of inclusiveness for the PGA, because surely Bill did not need the award after his course was built. I am over 50 years old. Most of my family is from the Delta region of Mississippi. Father born in Shaw, mother in Sunflower County. They all came by way of Champaign, Illinois. I personally know many people who never had the opportunity to get as much formal education as the kids in most of these underprivileged programs. Yet, these were very smart people. These were people. They did not let what other people thought or felt keep them from accomplishing their goals. My father only finished the 6th grade, but he could tell you everything you wanted to know about concrete, how to work concrete, building roads, etc., and how to build other stuff. In fact, he was a foreman on most of his jobs. He will probably never get a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Concrete Finishers Association of America, but that doesn't mean what he had to tell me was irrelevant. I'm going to guess that a lot of the stuff he talked to me about while I was growing up would probably never make it through the filtering process of the state-approved commission. Let us look at this in another context. Now, Americans, we love sports. Once again, the New England Patriots are world champions of the National Football League. How did they get there? Did they hold protests against the other teams in the league, demanding that they set up special programs so they could win? Did the Patriots boycott the other team? Did the Patriots refuse to buy their products until they came to their senses and do the right thing? On the other hand, does Coach Bill Belichick always work on his team, looking for ways to make his team better? Oftentimes, the Patriots will take on players that did not perform well in other places. However, once they are trained the way he wants them to be in his system, they perform at a high level and get the job done. Now, it's not just true of the Patriots. Every successful team in the world does one thing, and they do it well, and they do it over and over again. They do not let other people define who they are, what they can accomplish. When they get on the field or court, they focus on what their strengths are, what it is they need to accomplish. We still need to teach our kids to be warriors. Was watching the show, can't quite remember the name, and I heard someone ask, what happened to all of the great black leaders? Well, I can tell you what my opinion is and what happened to them. They have only been corrupted by TV and marketing money. The good ones that are left cannot get enough exposure to be relevant on a large scale. They have to work really hard. The bad ones are on everywhere with no work of their own. This brings us right back to the questions. Exactly what is the state-approved curriculum in AB101 supposed to do? Will it tell our children about the accomplishments of our people before they were artificially held down and backed by the people who control this state, this nation? Or is the purpose to keep our kids fighting to be equal with people who were never historically equal to them? This is not growth. It is continued stagnation. At this very moment, at a time of record corporate profits on Wall Street, every good cause to help any underprivileged group is completely underfunded. It's part of a plan. It is not an accident. In addition, it is not the job of white people to fix this problem. A large percentage of the adults in the underprivileged groups are marginally employed or grossly underemployed. Last to be hired, first to be fired. That is still going on. Why? It's because they are complacent, willing to sit around participating in conferences and directions of dialogue where they still have to explain to another man what it is he can do for them. If these people knew anything about the long history of their people, they would certainly do something else. A state-approved curriculum will not be designed to do that. We still need warriors. The purpose of TV has become to conquer and divide people at will. Whatever a very limited group of people wants to showcase or shut down, they do so with the tools of mass media, TV, internet, Facebook, etc. Most people who are watching this, well, let us expand the group, because we all know no one ever acknowledges watching any of my stuff. Most people in the world are not racist. Racist meaning they hate other people's skin colors to the point they cannot get along with them. The biggest fallacy of everything having to do with the continuation of thinking along the lines of race and racism is that people would constantly be at each other's throats, ready to kill each other if we didn't have all these programs. That could not be any further from the truth. However, TV needs the conflict, otherwise people would recognize it for what it really is, just another appliance. In August of 2014, I invited several people to a series of book discussions. The people that I asked to attend were chosen because they were educators who mostly work with high school age kids. High school teachers, university teachers, community activists, etc. The purpose of this book discussion was to read and analyze a book called Nature Knows No Color Line. The book was written by J.A. Rogers and has been reprinted several times, but good luck finding a copy. I bought copies of the book and distributed them at the meetings and gave away most of the books. In the research for his 235-page book, J.A. Rogers traveled to Europe several times. He traveled to churches, libraries, government halls of records, etc. Everything J.A. mentions in the book, he substantiates by providing footnotes at the bottom of every page that shows the source of the information as he's talking about it. Therefore, he is not asking you to believe him. He is saying if you disagree with what he found, you can do your own research and put it out there so we all can take a look. I like this approach so much that I built my other awareness project, 95% Guilt and Anger Free, in the same way. I pass out footnotes at every presentation. I'm not asking you to believe me, do your own research. J.A. Rogers was a member of several professional associations, including the Paris Society of Anthropology, the American Geographical Society, the American Association for the Advancement of Science, and the Academy of Political Science. In other words, he was not a member of these organizations because he picketed, boycotted, or stomped his feet till his face turned blue. He submitted his research paper like everyone else, and based on their support of his research, he was admitted. This is precisely the message we need to be sending to our young kids. Your mom and dad and maybe a few other people care about what you feel. In an adult world, other people care about how well you substantiate your opinions. There is only one step, not 12 steps to do something. You have to do the work. Would you believe there's only one middle school in America named after J.A. Rogers? That's in Omaha, Nebraska. Overall, the results of the book discussions were mixed and very disappointing to me. Very few of the highly educated college graduates in the group had ever heard of J.A. Rogers or any of his books. I made it a point to specifically ask, do you think any of the information presented in this book would be useful for young black kids to know? The overall answer was yes, but they were not sure how it should be presented in a class. As a kid who was a product of many of the situations underprivileged kids face each day, I thought the book would certainly help kids understand their real place in the history of the world rather than just seeing themselves as products of slaves. One day, hoping to overcome. Overcome what? For the last several hundred years, the history of America and position of every other group has been a one-sided story. The state taking steps to tell the other story is admirable, but they really should leave people alone to tell their own stories the way they should be told. When I talk about this, everyone instantly thinks I'm talking about just black people. In fact, I'm talking about everyone who continues to get his or her ideas about themselves from other people. Now, there are two recent news stories that I would like to highlight and connect to what I'm talking about. A few months ago, the people of Scotland recently had to vote on whether they would stay a part of Great Britain or go back to being an independent country. The debate was hot and heavy and very interesting. Most of the Scottish people had no confidence in their ability to make it in the world without being governed and told what to do by the English. They had grown up this way and did not know anything different. Of course, I'm not Scottish or English. I did not have a horse in the race, but my thoughts were aligned with former Minister Alex Salmond, who worked extremely hard to get the Yes Scotland Independence Initiative brought up for a vote. He no longer wanted to use Scottish resources to help pay for the wars and other excesses caused by England. He wanted the Scottish people to remember or learn about their great history of accomplishment before being ruled by England and gain the confidence that they could make it in the world on their own without any outside help. The Yes Scotland initiative was defeated in November 2014 and Alex Salmond resigned. Another story, Tanzania, Africa. After much debate, Tanzania just passed a law that Kiswahili will go back to being the official language taught in its school. It is set to become the first sub-Saharan African country to use an African language as the medium of instruction throughout the schooling years. I think they should probably say Tanzania is going to be the first sub-Saharan African country to go back to primarily teaching an African language in its schools. Again, there was and continues to be a lot of debate about whether a country can make it on its own terms without somehow being connected to the English. Many people even question whether it was smart or not. You know, this is something we should be doing. If you're going to be successful in the world, it is simple. You must do so on your own terms. You will never be successful trying to move ahead on other people's terms of success or their definition of who you are. This message is true for black kids as well. It is a waste of time and the continued misuse of time to continue arguing with and defining and redefining who you are with someone else. Yes, people are made from the same stuff. It was true before Europeans started spreading their miseducation and misunderstanding of the world to everybody else as fact. It has been true for the past 700 years. It is true now. It is not a new understanding we as a people just arrived at. We are made from the same stuff, but that does not mean everybody should end up in the same place doing the same things at the same time. Rarely is there a race where everyone who lined up at the start of that race finishes at the exact same time. Yes, some people have natural talent at certain things. There's nothing you can do about that. But it is not dictated by skin color. Usually the people who worked harder at whatever the competition is for finish ahead of the people who did not. Education is important. So is the source of that education. No matter what name you call yourself, take some time off from being told by other people what you can and cannot read about the history of your people. And you will begin to understand what you are meant to accomplish in this world. It's not that hard, and it doesn't take forever. My name is Michael James Brown, a producer, writer of the Other Awareness Project. You can find out the links to some of the things we talked about on my website or on my blog posting, otherawarenessproject.wordpress.com. My website is otherawarenessproject.com. Also, join me on Facebook, facebook.com/otherawarenessproject. I look forward to your comments. Thank you very much.